What is up, people? So in this video, I know we said that we're gonna be doing optimization, but I decided that we're gonna be doing that later. Reason being is if we start optimizing the things we have here, later on we might not be able to do optimization on every single thing. So yeah, that will be a problem. So anyway, so yeah, so right now what we're gonna be doing is let me just mute this and yeah. So currently when we enter full screen mode, as you can see, our images get stretched and they kind of seem as if they're in the wrong aspect ratio. That is because they are in the wrong aspect ratio. If we check our game here, our aspect ratio is 4:3 or 800:600. And when we enter our full screen mode, my aspect ratio of my monitor is 16:9. So there's some sort of conflict. So yeah, so let's go ahead and fix that. So if you're following along with the tutorial and you used 800:600, well, you can always set the aspect ratio. You can always say float aspect ratio is equals to 4 divided by 3, because this is a 4:3 aspect ratio. But if you use a different aspect ratio, I'm just gonna cover you guys anyway. So yeah, so what I'm gonna do is inside here, the main method, our main class, I'll simply create a new method, public static float get aspect. And this method, as it says, it simply gets the aspect ratio. And yeah, so what we're simply going to be doing here is going to return float width divided by float height. The reason why I'm converting this to a float is because this is an integer and this is an integer, so we need them to be in floats before we can do any division operations. So yeah, now we have our aspect ratio. So now what we can do now is we can go inside the display class, and I just want to create a public static float, simply name this aspect, and that's simply give it default value of 0. And the moment we initialize this frame, I want to say aspect is equal to top down zombie game dot get aspect ratio. So we can set the aspect ratio directly. And the other thing what I want to do here is to create a few variables. Public int x pos, y pos, x pos y buffer width and buffer height. I'll explain this in a moment why I'm doing all of this. Yeah. And here, what I want to do is I want to set the buffered width and the buffered height. I can easily set x pos to 0 and y position to 0. And here what I want to do is simply say buffer width is equals to width buffer height is equals to height. Now after doing this, yeah, now let me explain what this means. So when I go back to the game manager here, what's happening is the buffer width, the x position and the y position, the buffer width and buffer height, we're going to be using in the game manager to be drawing the back buffer, the image buffer or whatever. Yeah. So currently, what I'm trying to do is when I enter play mode, I want to have, when I stretch the screen, instead of stretching my image, I want to be drawing it, maintaining the same aspect ratio, but instead of missing out some parts of the screen because it's on the other side, what I want to do is to kind of like, put some black bars on the left and the right side. So yeah, so now let's just go ahead and implement this. So I can simply say display, instead of drawing it 0 and 0, I can simply say display.x position and display.y position. And instead of display.get width, I can simply say display.buffer width and display.buffer height. And now everything is still working as it's supposed to be. When I press enter, everything is, fine-ish, except that it's not stretching. So right now it's kind of not stretching and it's not responding to any resize of the screen. We're okay with that for now. So what we need to do right now is to go into the display, and we want to implement the stretching of the screen, but manually. So to do that, in fact, in order for me to do that, I need to know when the screen is being resized. So in order for me to know that, I simply have to implement is to add a new listener, a component listener, and it's going to import it for me directly there. I just simply click on implement abstract method. It's also going to import event.component event. And what I'm going to do is this component hidden, I'm just going to remove this. We're not going to be using that. Component shown, I'm going to be using that. Component moved, I will not be using that. Component resized, this is what I'll be using. So first off, what I want to do, since I'll be maintaining the height of the game and I'll just be changing the width, what I can simply do here for starters, I can simply say y, instead of y pause, what am I saying? Buffer height is equals to e get component dot get height. And when we look at this and run this, okay, I did not add the listener here to the JFrame, so I'll simply say add component listener this. Okay, good. Now when I resize this, as you can see, the height, it's stretching on the y-axis. Now I also want it to kind of stretch on the x-axis, if you're gonna get what I'm saying. So yeah, now to create that stretch, I'll have to kind of use the aspect ratio value that I created here. So inside here, I'll simply say buffer width is then equals to buffer height. And we're going to multiply this by aspect ratio to calculate the width, because we're calculating the width, times aspect, and that will, okay, then I'll have to, cast this to an integer, and yeah, and that should give me the width. And now when I run this, as you can see, everything is fine. And when I kind of, enlarge it, it's kind of straight, it's stretched properly. There are no issues. There aren't any major issues with this, and everything's working fine. So one more thing is that, as you can see, the black bar is on the right side of the screen, and I want the game view to kind of be centered around it. So what I can do is to simply go here, and this is when we start working with the positions. So what I want to simply say first is x position is equals to e dot get component dot get width. So this is gonna give us the width, and I can just add this. And if I do this, yeah, the screen won't be visible because it's gonna be offsetting the rendering canvas, the image, to the past the viewpoint. So what I need to do is to take away, to put the difference of the buffered width. So I'm gonna take away buffered width, or subtract that, and as you can see, when I enter here, it's kind of gonna offset it. It's gonna offset it to the left. So that's what was happening. This was on the right side, and now it's on the left. Now, in order for me to kind of like center this, because I'm trying to center this buffered image, what I want to do is to simply say, divide this by 2. And now when I run this, it should center it exactly on the center. As you can see, great. Now, one more thing is that when you play lots of computer games, they do not have these buttons, like the minimize, the close, and the whatever. What they do have instead, it's they don't have them. So what we can do is we can do this instead. We can simply set decoration, set decorated, is it decorated or something like that? I don't know. Okay, something isn't right. Set undecorated, okay. So this is kind of removes this, the top part. And now we don't have a way of, maximizing and minimizing. So yeah, to actually do that, I actually also don't know. So yeah, let me just do it real quick. So now that I want to set it to full screen, what I can do is I can simply go down to here, and I can say set extended state to JFrame dot maximized both. So doing this will kind of set this to full screen. As you can see, yeah, now the game's in full screen. I can enter, and as you can see, I'm playing the game in full screen mode. And yeah, currently I don't have a way to exit this mode. So in order for me to do that, I can go and add inside the key listener. Set the key listener. Okay, let's just go back to key management. Key. Where is the key? You know what? Let me just go back to to the display, game manager display, and key input manager. So inside the input manager, what I want to do is when you press space, you toggle between. Actually, no. When you press space, I don't know, tab, you toggle between full screen and and not full screen. So get mouse, get key first, key input. So I need to open up key input. And yeah, and inside here, what I can simply say is on key pressed, I can simply say int key is equals to e dot get key code, and here I simply say if key is equals to key event dot vk tab, let's go tab. Then we want to, okay, so first of all, I feel like I'm gonna make this display class public and static from here, because we can only have one display. So yeah, so I'll simply inside here, let me remove this and put this. I have to make this public and static. That way you can access the display from everywhere. And yeah, so when I enter the key input, I can simply say top down zombie game dot display dot set extended state to JFrame. I'm gonna have to import JFrame dot minimize both. So actually inside here, inside the display, I want to set a minimum size. So actually, let me just try this first. It seems like it's not working for some reason. And let me just enter the key input. Okay, top down display. Why is this not working? So first of all, let me just temporarily not make this large screen so I can see what's happening. And not VK tab. Okay, everything seems to be working, but for some reason when I press the tab button, it's not seemingly going to work. Key event.vk. But for some reason this is not working. I don't know why it's not working. So VK tab is actually 9, and let me just what's happening. So it seems that there is no solution to this problem. It looks like Java cannot read a typed event. So what I can do is simply go back to the key input and change this up from tab to some other key. We're going to change this in the future. Let me just simply make it escape for now. So when I simply type in VK escape, we want to toggle between full screen and small screen. So we want to say if top down zombie game display get extended state is equal to JFrame dot maximize both, then we want to set it to minimized instead of maximized. We want to set it to minimized, but dot iconified. What the heck? Okay, I think it's iconified. And then else, we want to simply set it to maximize both. Control C and okay, it looks like iconified makes it into, it kind of minimizes it, it shrinks it. Okay, so it's not iconified, it should be something else. This JFrame dot normal, I guess it's normal. And let's check this out. Yeah, so it's supposed to be normal or iconified, and yeah. So I'm gonna go back to the display and I'm gonna remove this. And if you want to start it as a as at max, at what's it called, maxed size, you simply can do this. but I don't want to set it max. So you can press escape and you're in full screen mode. And yeah, everything seems to be working pretty fine. And you press this, you enter, you exit. And you also can't change the, what is it called? You can't change the size. So anyway, so yeah. So let me just, wow, okay, the game crashed. So in the next video, we're gonna simply, be fixing the, what is it called? The rotation, not the rotation but per se, but the what is it called? The transformation of the coordinates. I think it should be here. Get on-screen coordinates. We need to change this a bit. So yeah. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you liked, make sure you like and subscribe, and yeah, peace guys.